Hello, everyone. Welcome to Infinite Power and Love book study this Friday evening. We are on the beautiful step 12. So we're on page 93, but let's go back to the page where the steps are. This is on the next page, on page 60. Tommy, thank you so much for your service each week, and Samantha. And yeah, let's read step 12 together. So, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. It's a big, chunky step, that, isn't it? The 3 parts to it: having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. Not a result, it is the result. We're guaranteed to have a spiritual awakening when we fearlessly and thoroughly go through these steps. And then I like that it says we tried to carry this message, because if you're anything like me, you will have tried and maybe had some success getting the message out, but then also messed it up sometimes and gone to whatever, people have backed off. So we're just practicing, we're just trying to carry this message as best as we can to alcoholics, plural, and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So that's like an ongoing thing for the rest of our lives, to just try, keep on showing up and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Beautiful, beautiful. So we're on page 93. Working with others is packed full of helpful information about how we can carry this message. We're very lucky today that things have changed a lot. Our program has completely changed, and we don't have to, start going back into people's families and trying to get information about them. And we don't have to travel necessarily to institutions. Hi, Lindsay. Institutions and things like this. We can do that. H&I is brilliant, but we're very lucky today. We have the ease and convenience and comfort of being able to sit in our own homes, go on a newcomers meeting, find people that need our help. And there's lots of different resources and ways that we can carry this message. So we're on page 93 and we're halfway down the page, and we'll just pick up from where we were. Thank you, Tommy. So your prospect may belong to a religious denomination. His religious education and training may be far superior to yours. In that case, he is going to wonder how you can add anything to what he already knows. But he will be curious to learn why his own convictions have not worked and why yours seem to work so well. He may be an example of the truth that faith alone is insufficient. It's funny, actually, because I was just reading with someone this morning, and it was in Bill's story, and faith without works is dead, he said. Let me just find it. Yeah, it's on page 14. So faith without works was dead on page 14, and then we found it the other day. Is it in step 11? Anyway, I won't get distracted. So you may have experienced this yourself, working with people who know more. They might have a religious background. They might be really clued up and have had an experience with their own God. But we have to look at the facts that their faith alone was insufficient. They're still drinking or using against their will. So this is such a beautiful line. I love it. I need to log it in my head of where it is and use it more often. To be vital. So that word, vitality, essential, completely necessary. Faith must be accompanied by self-sacrifice and unselfish constructive action. I can't believe my sign is all the way over there. I'm not going to get it out, but I do have a sign. Hi, Dolores. Good to see you. So we're on page 93, and there's this beautiful line: to be vital, faith must be accompanied by self-sacrifice and unselfish, constructive action. The whole way through the book, it's saying action, action, action. And it's saying, be helpful, be helpful, be helpful. One day I'm going to create a document that, you know, it's probably already been done, but it'll be quite helpful to just pick out my, you know, myself, or it might be a task some people want to do. How many times does this book tell me that I have to be self-sacrificing, unselfish, and take constructive action? The whole way through the book. Let him see that you are not there to instruct him in religion. Admit that he probably knows more about it than you do, but call to his attention the fact that, however deep his faith and knowledge, he could not have applied it, or he would not drink. Perhaps your story will help him see where he has failed to practice the very precepts he knows so well. So I had to look that word up because I didn't know what it meant, precepts. I've got a rule to regulate behavior or thought. So rule to regulate behavior or thought. We represent no particular faith or denomination. We are dealing only with general principles common to most denominations. So most branches and different, religious groups. Outline the program of action. I've squiggly underlined that. I love it when it tells me, again, this is a really common thread throughout the book: course of action, program of action, way of living, design for living, way of life. It's a program, it's a set course menu of action. That means I'm not just going to think about it or talk about it or theorize. I'm going to actually live it. So outline the program of action, explaining how you made a self-appraisal. So above that, I've got number 4, when we did a fearless and searching moral inventory. How you straightened out your past. Next to that, I've got 8 and 9. Became willing to make amends and made direct amends. And why you are now endeavoring to be helpful to him. There's that beautiful word again. So step 12. For me to be able to keep this thing, I have to give it away. I have to. And what a joyous, beautiful part of the program that is. So it is important for him to realize that your attempt to pass this on to him plays a vital part in your own recovery. I love that. And I love that it says your attempt to pass this on to him. And again, that word vital, vitality, thinking of our vital organs. We can't live without our heart, our lungs, you know, our brain. There are certain vital organs that we need to live. But that attempt is quite humbling, because I remember when my sponsor said to me, when I first started sponsoring, and I was worried about messing up. I was worried about killing someone or not doing the right thing. And she was like, you're not God. You can only lay out the spiritual tools at someone's feet. You're only attempting to pass this on. Remember, when Bill Wilson was working with all of those alcoholics, he didn't get a lot of them sober, but he was the one that stayed sober. So actually, he may be helping you more than you are helping him. I've got an exclamation mark with a heart as a little dot, because I also remember when my sponsor said that, and I didn't get it back then, but now as a sponsor, I do get it. My sponsees help me more than I'm helping them, because I have to show up, and then I'm going through this work, and it keeps me well. So make it plain that he is under no obligation to you. Hi, Sandy, welcome. We're on page 94. Make it plain that he is under no obligation to you, that you only hope that he will try to help other alcoholics when he escapes his own difficulties. So that's beautiful as well, isn't it? Because it's like that you hope only that he will try to help other alcoholics. Because I know that when I've got a willing sponsee, willing to carry this forward, I know that they're going to stay well if they do all of the other things, you know. But what a beautiful gift. Like, it's passed along, it's passed down. We're all descendants of Bill and Bob. This has all been passed from that table where Ebby and Bill sat together, and Dr. Silkworth and Roland Hazard and Carl Jung, and all of the pieces of the puzzle have connected so that we are here today on a Friday evening studying the book. It's just magic. So suggest how important it is, so here we go again, that he placed the welfare of other people ahead of his own. This unselfishness. And I've got all of this highlighted, but I've underlined how important, and the welfare of other people. I've underlined those bits. Make it clear that he is not under any pressure, that he needn't see you again if he doesn't want to. You should not be offended if he wants to call it off, for he has helped you more than you have helped him. So again, there's that reoccurring theme about sponsees helping us more than we've helped them. And I remember listening to a share once about codependency and sponsorship, and it was really interesting, actually, because it's like, if I rely on a human power, that human power is not God. So I'm still trying to get fixed by, so it's never going to work. I'll always kind of get burned. So I have seen in the past people get really upset or disappointed or let down if their sponsees don't do what they want. And it's quite concerning, because it's like, we're all on a journey. I have to know my place as a sponsor. I am just here. I say to sponsees, I will break my neck for your recovery. Absolutely break my neck for your recovery. But if you take your foot off the gas, so will I. I'll be working with someone else. I'll be working with someone who's willing, because I can't chase sponsees. We don't have time. If your talk has been sane, quiet, and full of human understanding, you have perhaps made a friend. Maybe you have disturbed him about the question of alcoholism. This is all to the good. The more hopeless he feels, the better. And there's another reoccurring theme that has gone on from step one. There was a lot of talk at the beginning of the book about this hopelessness. And that's really important. It's the paradox of the program, that to really understand that I need this spiritual awakening, for some reason we alcoholics and addicts need to be completely and utterly broken, beaten into a sense of reasonableness. He will be more likely to follow your suggestions. Your candidate may give reasons why he need not follow all of the program. He may rebel at the thought of a drastic house cleaning, which requires discussion with other people. Do not contradict such views. Tell him you once felt as he does, but you doubt whether you would have made such progress had you not taken action. There's that beautiful word again, action. I always squiggly underline it. And it's just making me think of that bit in the book. I can't remember what page it's on now, but where it says alcohol is the great persuader. I don't know if anybody's had that experience of finding yourself trying to talk someone into working the steps or going ahead, and it's like, wait a minute, why am I driving your recovery? It has to come from you. Yeah. On your first visit, tell him about the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. If he shows interest, lend him your copy of this book. I know somebody who actually did that, lent her own book to someone. She did get it back, but I mean, this book, my original book, is quite precious to me. It's got all my little squiggles and notes, and even though I have some other books that I work through as well. So unless your friend wants to talk further about himself, do not wear out your welcome. Give him a chance to think it over. If you do stay, let him steer the conversation in any direction he likes. This is what it says in the book. So maybe this is bad. Maybe it's bad of me, but I'm quite driven when I speak to newcomers. I don't know if it's because the fellowship has changed and because we've got so many people in the rooms now, that I kind of keep it very like, we can talk about life, but do you want to get well? So do you want the solution? I don't really let newcomers like go, because I'll be sitting there for hours and hours and hours listening to the whole life story, and it will be completely full of madness, because that's how we come in, isn't it? So, but this is obviously, back in the day, this is a different time where you'd have to, it wasn't so well known. You'd have to go and speak to the family, and, we're so lucky today. So sometimes a new man is anxious to proceed at once, and you may be tempted to let him do so. This is sometimes a mistake. If he has trouble later, he is likely to say you rushed him. So my second sponsor, actually, when we spoke about sponsorship, she gave me 24 hours to think about it. She said, go away and pray. She told me how she sponsors. We had a chat about our experiences. And then she said, ring me in the morning. She said, sleep on it, pray on it, and ring me in the morning if you want to go ahead. And I thought that was brilliant. So I've continued with that. I've said, this is how I work. Hi, Kathleen. We're on page 95. So that just wanted to share that in case that's helpful to anyone. It gives, and it says it here in the book, doesn't it? If you will be most successful with alcoholics if you do not exhibit any passion for crusade or reform. Oh, who has ever tried to passion, crusade, or reform? Oh my gosh, I have. It was awful. Everyone turned on me, and I was made out to be the nutter. It was, crusade means vigorous campaign for change. So never talk down to an alcoholic from any moral or spiritual hilltop. Again, that just doesn't work, does it? It just, thinking of ourselves, anyone talks down to us, it's not going to pass. Simply lay out the kit of spiritual tools for his inspection. I love that. And that reminds me of page 25, where it says, that's what we do. We lay down the kit of spiritual tools. Show him how they worked with you. Offer him friendship and fellowship. Tell him that if he wants to get well, you will do anything to help. And I've circled that if. It's a really, that in the last week we talked about, even back in this chapter of chapter 12, step 12, chapter 7, they are still asking all the time, do you want to get well? Do you still want this? Because the ego is a very cunning, baffling, powerful thing that can grow back from step 1 when we're broken and come in to step 12. So I think it's great that they keep on saying, do you want this? If he is not interested in your solution, if he expects you to act only as a banker for his financial difficulties or a nurse for his sprees, you may have to drop him until he changes his mind. This he may do after he gets hurt some more. So I haven't got a cross-reference here, but there is, if you flick the page, it talks about, you know, the don't to spend too much time on anyone's situation and search out another alcoholic. So you might want to do a little cross-reference there. If he is sincerely interested and wants to see you again, so there it is again, that question, if he is sincerely interested and wants to see you again, ask him to read this book in the interval. And I don't know why I've not got the cross references here, but I've done it before, and I think it says read this book about 4 or 5 times in the book. And I just love how like simple that is. It's like, read this book. This is, you know, this is the solution. This is going to help us get to this power greater than ourselves, which is going to keep us safe and protected. And when you look at the simplicity of those 3 words of instruction, and then you think how many people are not reading the book, it's a bit like, because I don't know about you, but the information goes in one ear and out the other for me. This is why I study it, because I forget very quickly. I could take a sponsee through and then take another one through, and I'm like, oh, I forgot that was there. So after doing that, he may decide for himself whether he wants to go on. He should not be pushed or prodded by you, his wife, or his friends. This is such a beautiful line here. If he is to find God, the desire must come from within. Beautiful. And it's so true as well, isn't it? The desire must come from within. If he thinks he can do the job in some other way, or prefers some other spiritual approach, encourage him to follow his own conscience. We have no monopoly on God. We merely have an approach that worked with us. And by monopoly, it means control of supply. But point out that we alcoholics have much in common, and that you would like, in any case, to be friendly. Let it go at that. And I know we've had a couple more people join, but just that easiness of being a sponsor, but not trying to control the show, not trying to play God, and just literally being willing to show up and work with people. But sponsorship is such a challenge in itself, isn't it? Because you've got these humans and everyone's got their own different things, and you're just trying your best to carry this message. And there's always different, you know, challenges that come with it, but there's so many gifts as well. So page 96, do not be discouraged if your prospect does not respond at once. I've put a big exclamation mark after that. Search out another alcoholic. That for me is like highlighted, squiggly underlined. Oh, and try again. So this is another really common thread throughout the whole book. Make the approach, search out another alcoholic. You know, going to the hospital, there's loads of references in the book. And, you know, I guess it's just my experience with it. My sponsor said that sponsorship is not optional. And so I've sponsored since I went through the 12, and I feel like that is the key thing to this. You know, there's 76 pages dedicated of the book to working with others. So when I hear people say, oh, I'm waiting for someone to ask me, it's a little bit, I don't know, I don't want to sound judgy when I say that, but I think as a recovered alcoholic or addict, it's my responsibility to search out someone who's dying, because they don't know the solution. They don't know what is going to help them, but we do. So that's quite an active part of the program. And search out another alcoholic and try again. There it is in black and white. You are sure to find someone desperate enough to accept with eagerness what you offer. And for those that are sponsoring on this meeting, you know, the gift, the absolute gift of working with an eager sponsee, someone who shows up on time, who does all the suggestions, who is active, and you see them recover. It is magic. It's so wonderful. We find it a waste of time to keep chasing a man who cannot or will not. There's that cannot or will not. I've seen that quite a few times recently in the book. Who cannot or will not work with you. If you leave such a person alone, he may soon become convinced that he cannot recover by himself. To spend too much time on any one situation is to deny some other alcoholic an opportunity to live and be happy. So this is a brilliant place to come back to if ever you find yourself struggling with a sponsee or a fellow who's struggling with a sponsee who doesn't seem ready. They're not willing, eager, and keen. I always think page 96, because it reminds me to spend too much time on any one situation is to deny some other alcoholic an opportunity to live and be happy. We have to be at that place, right, where if he is to find God, the desire must come from within. I must understand my step one. You know, I've admitted that I am powerless over alcohol, that my life has become unmanageable. When I understand that, I'm going in with everything that I've got. One of our fellowship failed entirely with his first half a dozen prospects. He often says that if he had continued to work on them, he might have deprived many others who have since recovered of their chance. I feel like they're talking about Dr. Bob there, but it might be Bill Wilson as well. But I feel like that was Dr. Bob as well. But both of them worked with a lot of people who, you know, most people are not going to get this. This is the sad fact and truth of this illness. We're all here today studying this book, but the majority of people are not going to get this. It's such a scary illness to think of that. And that's why the activeness is so important, isn't it? Suppose now you are making your second visit to a man. He has read this volume and says he is prepared to go through with the 12 steps of the program of recovery. Having had the experience yourself, you can give him much practical advice. So I always find it interesting that they use advice here, because I was taught that I'm not to give advice, but the practical advice is, I guess, our experience of working the 12 steps. The guidance, suggestions that we were given, we are passing it down. And, you know, we're all big bookers, aren't we? So we're going to keep it very clear cut and by the book. Let him know you are available if he wishes to make a decision and tell his story, but do not insist upon it if he prefers to consult someone else. He may be broke and homeless. If he is, you might try to help him about getting a job or give him a little financial assistance. But you should not deprive your family or creditors of money they should have. So, you know, the hi Leah, welcome. I don't know if you guys have experienced this. It might be, you know, it might be money, but it could also be time. That we're giving all time and energy and money and resources to sponsees and everything else. And actually, there's a level at home that I should be focused on as well. Perhaps you will still want to take the man into your home for a few days, but be sure to use discretion. Be certain he will be welcomed by your family and that he is not trying to impose upon you for money, connections, or shelter. Thank you. Permit that and you only harm him. So I've squiggly underlined, you only harm him. And again, how times have changed. Maybe some of us on this meeting have taken people into their homes. It's not probably as common as it was. Oh, that was weird. My phone just started talking to me. Strange. Sorry about that. I didn't even touch it. That freaks me out. Permit that and you only harm him. You will be making it possible for him to be insincere. You may be aiding in his destruction rather than his recovery. And it talks more about this, doesn't it? It talks more about this later on in the chapter. So we'll continue. Never avoid these responsibilities, but be sure you are doing the right thing if you assume them. And this bit I've got highlighted and boxed off. Helping others is the foundation stone of your recovery. A kindly act once in a while isn't enough. Again, that common thread all the way through the book. It isn't enough. On the start of this chapter, at the bottom of the page, it says, to be helpful is our only aim. And a kindly act once in a while isn't enough. You have to act the Good Samaritan every day if need be. It may mean the loss of many nights' sleep. Oh yeah, so there's 12 of these inconveniences as well, if you want to number them. So 1, the loss of many nights' sleep. 2, great interference with your pleasures. 3, interruptions to your business. 4, it may mean sharing your money and your home. 5, counseling frantic wives and relatives. 6, innumerable trips to police courts, sanitariums, hospitals, jails, and asylums. 7, your telephone may jangle at any time of the day or night. 8, your wife may sometimes say she is neglected. 9, a drunk may smash the furniture in your home or burn a mattress. 10, you may have to fight with him if he is violent. 11, sometimes you'll have to call a doctor and administer sedatives under his direction. And 12, did I just say 9 instead of 11? Or, oh no, I've forgotten what I said. And 12, another time you may have to send for the police or an ambulance. Occasionally, you will have to meet such conditions. And in my book here, I've got any lengths. But again, aren't we lucky that we don't have to, you know, hopefully fight with someone, somebody smashing up our furniture or burning a mattress. We're just so lucky today. There's always an abundance of newcomers to help, and the convenience of opening that laptop is not something that that could, you know, that I want to take for granted, that convenience. We seldom allow an alcoholic to live in our homes for a long time. It is not good for him, and it sometimes creates serious complications in a family. Though an alcoholic does not respond, there is no reason why you should neglect his family. You should continue to be friendly to them. Family should be offered your way of life. Should they accept and practice spiritual principles, there is a much better chance that the head of the family will recover. And even though he continues to drink, the family will find life more bearable. So in my book, I've got Al-Anon next to that. You know, our way of life is working a 12-step program. We now are very blessed to have a vibrant, healthy Al-Anon fellowship. And there's also Koanon, and there might be other support groups that I'm not entirely sure about that work 12-step programs. So for the type of alcoholic who is able and willing, I've really squiggly underlined willing to get well, Little charity in the ordinary sense of the word is needed or wanted. The men who cry for money and shelter before conquering alcohol are on the wrong track. Yet we do go to great extremes to provide each other with these very things when such action is warranted. This may seem inconsistent, but we think it is not. And it goes on to say, because it's all part of the same thing, it is not a matter of giving that is in question, but when and how to give. That often makes the difference between failure and success. The minute we put our work on a service plane, the alcoholic commences to rely upon our assistance rather than upon God. He clamors for this or that, claiming he cannot master alcohol until his material needs are cared for. And I think this is like quite bold of Bill Wilson to say nonsense, as in like it's completely not the truth. That's a joke, it's nonsense. Some of us had taken very hard knocks to learn this truth. Job or no job, wife or no wife, we simply do not stop drinking so long as we place dependence upon other people ahead of dependence on God. How powerful and beautiful is that bit of the book? And I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but every single time, relying on a human power, whether it be a partner, husband or wife, the children, the employers, the best friends, the people, I always find you get a little bit burned until you go back to God. You go back to God, and the expectations become lower and lower, which is really helpful. But yeah, and this is all trial and error, isn't it? This is trial and error. When we first start sponsoring, I think it's quite common that we run around the houses, we put everything, all the eggs in the basket of the sponsee. We really want we want to do as much as possible to help them, for them to get well. But over time, we start to realize that this has to come from within. When you've got that eager, willing sponsee, they will show up. They'll say, when are you available for step work? When can we get into, when can we get into work? When can I start sponsoring? And they share as well. They share their fears and doubts, which is good. I like it, when sponsees are honest about their concerns around stuff. So here we go. We've got more gold. Burn the idea into the consciousness of every man that he can get well regardless of anyone. The only condition is that he trust in God and clean house. Beautiful. How simple, how direct. Hi, Lynn. Great to have you with us. We're on page 98. Trust in God and clean house. Now, the domestic problem. There may be divorce, separation, or strained relations. When your prospect has made such reparation as he can to his family, and has thoroughly explained to them the new principles by which he is living. So I've squiggly underlined is living. This is a way of life, isn't it? And reparation, for anybody that doesn't know, because I didn't know, it means to repair. It's like an amends. So when the prospect has made these amends and repairs with their family, and has thoroughly explained to them the new principles by which he is living, he should proceed to put those principles into action at home. That is, if he is lucky enough to have a home. Though his family may be at fault in many respects, he should not be concerned about that. I need to remember this point of the book because it refers to another bit I'm thinking of where their defects might be glaring. Just found it, page 83. Their defects may be glaring, but the chances are our own actions are partly responsible. So that's on page 83. Though his family may be at fault in many respects, he should not be concerned about that. So the whole way through the book, it's always telling us, isn't it, to look within, look within, look within. He should concentrate on his own spiritual demonstration, and not a spiritual talk, not a spiritual presentation, a spiritual demonstration, the way we show up and live. Argument and fault finding are to be avoided like the what? Like the plague. That's a bit of an ongoing joke with sponsees, and when we sort of do inventory and stuff, it's like argument and fault finding are to be avoided like the what? Like the plague, because the plague is an awful, horrific illness which is going to get you and slowly kill you. Which is, you know, when we are obsessed, and this relates as well to page 64, doesn't it, where it talks about resentment. And it's the only place in the book that it says disease. From it stem all, resentment is the number one offender. From it stem all forms of spiritual disease. The number one, it has the power to actually, it destroys, destroys more alcoholics. It has the power to actually kill, So I love that bit. And if ever you find yourself or someone that you know arguing or fault finding, this is a really good place to bring them back to. Bottom of page 98. Avoid it like the plague. We have ceased fighting anything or anyone. In many homes, this is a difficult thing to do. Just going to mute you, Tommy. There we go. Otherwise, bless you if that was a sneeze. In many homes, this is a difficult thing to do, but it must be done if any results are to be expected. If persisted in for a few months, the effect on a man's family is sure to be great. The most incompatible people discover they have a basis upon which they can meet. Little by little, the family may see their own defects and admit them. These things can then be discussed in an atmosphere of helpfulness. There's that beautiful word again, and friendliness. So helpfulness, full of help. And I like thinking about how empty, there were cracks in me, there were holes. And now I'm becoming full, I'm becoming whole and full of help, useful, helpful. And I love this paragraph because it's like I'm focused on me and my spiritual demonstration, and I'm not pointing the finger anymore. Spent my whole life pointing the finger and going, yeah, but you do this, not realizing that I do all of the same things. So this is, and when, if they're, you know, if they start to become aware of their defects because we're living by example, then we can, you know, open this conversation up in a lovely, helpful atmosphere of friendliness and kindness and love. After they have seen tangible results, the family will perhaps want to go along. Tangible, so they can see it, they can feel it, it's there, they can grab hold of it, they can see these results. These things will come to pass naturally and in good time. This is such a good bit. Provided, however, the alcoholic continues to demonstrate, there's that word again, doesn't just say talk about, demonstrate that he can be sober, considerate, and helpful regardless of what anyone says or does. And I've put a big question mark after that. That's a really powerful place to be, isn't it? if I can continue to demonstrate that I can be sober, considerate, and helpful, regardless of what anyone says or does. This is a work in progress. Of course, we all fall much below this standard many times. So that's lovely. That's reassuring. Even the best of the best are gonna, get caught up in their old ways. But we must try to repair the damage immediately, lest we pay the penalty by a spree. So I always make I never need to go anywhere without my must sign. It's just over there, but I won't go and get it. I have got in my book, though, step 10. So step 10 says, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitting it. So this means repair the damage immediately, lest we pay the penalty by a spree. And that spree could be a drinking spree, but it could also be a thinking spree. It could be a shopping spree, an eating spree, a frantic spree, a depressed spree. It could be, it's unnecessary if we put the action in. So if there be divorce or separation, there should be no undue haste for the couple to get together. The man, this is really helpful for newcomers especially, but people who are relying again on the relationship and the mending of the broken relationships. This is really helpful. There should be no undue haste for people to get together. The man should be sure of his recovery. The wife should fully understand his new way of life. Obviously, this was written back in the day. The genders don't have to be what it is in the book, but the recovering person and the other person. If their old relationship is to be resumed, it must, there's that word again, be on a better basis, since the former did not work. Fact, it didn't work, the old relationship. We were unhealthy, we're both in the madness, we've probably don't have a clue about what a sane and sound sex ideal is, still living in our character defects. We're drinking or using. It's an unhealthy, dysfunctional relationship, usually. This means a new attitude and spirit all around. Sometimes it is to the best interests of all concerned that a couple remain apart. So this is a great place to bring people if they are very keen to get back into the relationship when they haven't done the inner work. Obviously, no rule can be laid down. Let the alcoholic continue his program day by day. When the time for living together has come, it will be apparent to both parties. So again, in my book, I've got patience, trust, and God's will. Because this is not a self-will. I want, I need, I must fix. This will all happen in God's time. Let no alcoholic say he cannot recover unless he has his family back. So they're really drumming it into our heads, aren't they? They've just told us on page 98, burn the idea into the consciousness of every man that he can get well regardless of anyone. And there's that other bit, I can't see where it is now. But this whole bit is talking about don't rely on human power, this just isn't so. In some cases, the wife will never come back for one reason or another. Remind the prospect that his recovery is not dependent upon people. Here it is again, big, I imagine it like flashing, like big neon lights. It is dependent upon his relationship with God. Ooh, beautiful. And we've just gone through steps 10 and 11. Step 11 is like this seeking through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God. And now we're in step 12. This is about giving it away. The more I can rely on God, the less I rely on self. the less I rely on others as well. So we have seen men get well whose families have not returned at all. We have seen others slip when the family came back too soon. That's you know, these are facts, aren't they? Both you and the new man must walk day by day in the path of spiritual progress. Love that. Like it says back, oh, I can't remember the page now. Is it spiritual progress? Not spiritual perfection. I'm really tired. I can't think where it is now. If you persist, so we've got some beautiful step 12 promises here. If you persist, remarkable things will happen. Fact, promise. When we look back, we realize that the things which came to us, I've squiggly underlined that, came to us when we put ourselves in God's hands, were better than anything we could have planned. Follow the dictates of a higher power, capitalized, and you will presently live in a new and wonderful world, no matter what your present circumstances. That's such a gorgeous place even to take a newcomer to, isn't it? Whatever your present circumstances, and this, you know, remarkable things will happen. I like the word presently as well, because it's the double entendre of living in the now, in the moment, in this in this space, in this wonderful world, no matter what your present circumstances. When working with a man and his family, you should take care not to participate in their quarrels. You may spoil your chance of being helpful if you do. But urge upon a man's family that he has been a very sick person and should be treated accordingly. You should warn against arousing resentment or jealousy. You should point out that his defects of character are not going to disappear overnight. Show them that he has entered upon a period of growth. Ask them to remember when they are impatient the blessed fact of his sobriety. So there's a whole chapter coming up, you know, to wives, which is a bit of a controversial chapter. But they really had a massive task, didn't they, of getting these 12 steps into 164 pages. So some of the lines are a little bit like, you know, this is to the non-alcoholic, you know, be careful, don't arouse resentment or jealousy, and, you know, chill out. But in my original book, I've got patience here. And this is, you know, we can remind ourselves that these defects of character are not going to disappear overnight. I've got a little cross-reference here to one of my favorite bits in the book, page 14 in Bill's story, when Dr. Silkworth is talking to Bill after his spiritual awakening. And it's a couple of lines after, it says, finally, he shook his head saying, something has happened to you. I don't understand it, but you better hang on to it. And this is the bit, anything is better than the way you were. That's on page 14, a few lines down from that middle paragraph. And that kind of aligns with when they are impatient, the blessed fact of his sobriety, but we can apply that to ourselves as well. If you have been successful in solving your own domestic problems, tell the newcomer's family how that was accomplished. In this way, you can set them on the right track without becoming critical of them. The story of how you and your wife settled your difficulties is worth any amount of criticism. Here we go. Assuming we are spiritually fit. I've put a big question mark after that. Spiritually fit. We can do all sorts of things alcoholics are not supposed to do. People have said that we must not go where liquor is served. We must not have it in our homes. We must shun friends who drink. We must avoid moving pictures which show drinking scenes. I always like that because it's like the cinema, moving pictures. Cute. Our friends must hide their bottles. If we go to their houses, we mustn't think or be reminded about alcohol at all. Our experience shows that this is not necessarily so. I love this bit, and I'll probably finish on this bit. We meet these conditions every day. This is so important. This bit is so important. An alcoholic who cannot meet them still has an alcoholic mind. There is something the matter with his spiritual status. So it's an interesting one, isn't it? I've put a little reference there to 52, the famous bedevilments page. But it is pretty magic that by giving this program everything we've got, the step 10 promises that this problem will be removed. I'll be in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. So if there is somebody that we're working with that cannot meet these conditions, it's always worth looking at the spiritual program and finding out what's missing. You know, I've had sponsees in the past say, oh, I'm really not feeling good. I'm really not feeling good. Can we go through the steps again? And I remember I heard it on a workshop. The guy said really confidently, he was like, no, I'm not going to take you through the steps again. You're not doing your nightly review. You're not sponsoring. You're not praying. I've already laid the spiritual tools out at your feet. It's not going to work unless you do the things. So if you were doing all of the things and then you came to me and said, I need a new experience. Can we go through the work again? Then I'll give you my time and energy. But if you're not doing the things that we did in the first round, let's save time by reading all the book again and look at what bits are missing in your program. So I found that really helpful, actually, because that saved me. You know, it made me available for those people who hadn't gone through the steps before. So my lovely people, let's leave it there and we will pick up again next week. So I'll just stop the recording. Thank you so much for being here.